Welcome to another exciting episode of 24 Inside. I'm Daphne Brogdon. Today we're going to go inside the story department. We're going to meet a couple of story coordinators and a couple of writers. And as an added bonus, we're going to meet our favorite CTU director, Bill Buchanan, played by James Morrison. It's all coming up. So who keeps track of all the stories? Let's meet them. Script coordinators Nicole, Rana Duvet, and Donna Rooney. Nicole, Donna, how does somebody become a script coordinator?
They're usually pretty popular jobs because you get to work with the writers. Oh. So if you are a writer yourself, a lot of us lobby for those jobs, I would say, because it's kind of a stepping stone. But it is a skill that you do have to learn, for sure.
Okay, so is that what you guys want to be doing ultimately, is then writing?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, so script coordinator, walk me through it. What do you guys do?
The technicalities of the job are, or the technical aspects rather, are on any show, a script coordinator gets the script from the writer, and we put it in the correct format for production to actually shoot it. So it involves putting scene numbers for each scene and making sure that the script makes sense and is all in the story, and
tracking locations and characters and who's in the episode, who's not in the episode, because we have a lot of recurring characters, and then we have guest actors. And
all right, so you'd put like a page on the front that says these are the actors that are going to be
exactly,
needed for
these
this.
are the characters that are in this episode.
So then you're also sending that to casting, so they know when to get people.
Everybody.
yeah, everyone
Everybody
from the
gets
studio, the network, and every person in production who needs a copy of the script to get the information for them so that they can do their job.
You're sort of like traffic writing traffic or something.
We're generally the liaison between the writers and the production staff and crew. So we're that
Yeah,
definitely
so
that go-between. So
exactly.
the writers come to us with issues, production comes with us issues, and we just have to make it match. Because if the writer says, oh, we want this character in an episode, and production says, well, they're not available that day, or they're not whatever, then we have to kind of work our way around it. And
So you guys get
figure
kind of
things out.
squeezed.
A little bit. Every now and then.
Okay, to rework it. So aren't they also color-coded? Aren't the scripts color-coded?
Mm-hmm. Every new revision has its own color. There's a start to finish from white all the way through to the ending color, and we'll double it over. We'll do second, third white, whatever, however many it takes to get through as many revisions as needed to get the script in its final working format.
Mm-hmm. Some shows have different colors through buff or
Cinnamon and
yeah,
cherry, and we pretty much just
we generally do white, blue, pink, yellow, green, goldenrod, and then we go back to second white, second blue.
So
second
now
pink.
do you know now in your slate, like, oh, blue script means we're halfway through, like it's embedded with you?
Unfortunately, it's not as kind of standard per script and per episode as that is, but usually you know what draft you're on for the script that we're working on. So like right now, the finale episode is on waiting for green pages to come out. Like I could tell you that, but if you ask me what episode 6 finished on, no idea.
It is per episode. It's particular to the episode.
Last year I remember seeing a red script at the final, which meant because it couldn't be photocopied.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they were also numbered per script per person, so each person had their assigned number. And then this year we're actually doing watermark drafts with people's names, so everyone who gets a script has their name on it. So
DNA matchup.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's just a security sort of deal, so that we can keep track of if a script with someone's name on it that was assigned to them happens to show up somewhere.
Just like no, is that only for the final episode?
Generally, it's just to try to keep it under wraps and to keep it as close to the vest as possible, so that that information doesn't get out there, because it's usually a pretty big surprise.
Yes.
We try to do.
Each episode is. So are you guys also fans? Are you waiting to get those scripts to see what happens next?
I think so. I mean, I was watching the show before I started working on it, and I just happened to be lucky enough to get a job. It wasn't like I was lobbying for a job on 24, but I kind of ended up here and was very excited about it. And you wait for the first draft of a script to come out, but they come out, and by the time they get to the shooting script, they're very different. So each step along the way, it's kind of exciting to see how it changes, which is one of the benefits of our job. We get to see that entire process in each step of the way, and then we watch a cut a few months later after it's shot to kind of also do our job and track continuity and make sure that things didn't change on set, and that what they did in the edit room has stuck with the original idea of the show. And then we get excited when they come out and they air, because they're still new with music and sound effects and stuff, so we get excited about that.
So sometimes do you guys flag things like, oh, wait a minute, well, he can't be in the script, that guy's dead?
Yeah. definitely.
Yeah, I mean, that's the even bigger part of our job, I would say, than the technical aspects of putting it into production. That's very important, but the second half of being on a show like 24 and being the script coordinator is getting to catch up. We're the first line of defense. We're the first people to see each script after the writer has finished a draft. So we go through it, and we have to keep a lot of information in our head about where we've been and what we've done and who's been here and who's been there. And if we try to catch something, if we see something, because the writers have so much information in their head, they can't always remember
I can't even
what they
always
named
remember
this
it,
guy.
yeah.
Yeah.
Watching it, I'm like, what?
That is our job, so we try our best to catch those things and bring them to their attention so that it can be as clean as possible when it goes to production.
Yeah. I mean, it is the kind of show where so many things are happening and so many things are changing, and there's bad guys dying and there's bad guys popping up, and who's attached to who and who's actually talked to this person, who knows what is a big thing, because sometimes you forget, like, well, did they have a conversation about that or whatever? And so,
And what was said in that conversation,
yeah,
exactly.
Wow.
and it's the
Yeah.
kind of show where it's like we're the first line of defense, but there's the other writers on the staff who'll read one of the other writers' drafts and they'll look at it, and it's the kind of show where it's definitely the more eyes looking at it, the better. It's like the directors look at it
Yeah.
and the people in production, and sometimes wardrobe will even call and say, oh well, last time these guys were Secret Service agents, why are they Marines now? Because that they track that for wardrobe, but it makes a difference in the script, and so.
Well,
everyone notices
Do you have
stuff.
friends who know you work on the show and they're like, come on, tell me what's coming up in the next
All the
script?
time.
There's that, but we also get a lot of the, oh my gosh, don't tell me what's going on. I don't want to know. I want to
Yeah.
watch it. And so, you get the tell me the secrets and the really don't want to know anything because you're going to spoil it.
Don't give anything away.
Catching the various different storylines and characters, do you think that's what makes your job different on 24 than on another show?
I think every script coordinator is probably doing something along those lines, but it definitely is specific to our show, the amount of characters that come and go and the amount of storylines that we have running, because you're seeing every different aspect of what's going on in one day. So we're in 7 different places at a time with 7 different sets of people. So it's definitely a much more kind of convoluted type experience.
I think the level of detail also on a show like this versus, another show.
Like a sitcom, maybe, or something.
Yeah, or the OC or something. Anything else. I think it's there are so many facts to keep track of on this, and it's so important to this show versus possibly another show. I'm sure you're right. Script coordinators on other shows have a level of doing that, but it's really important, and they give us the privilege of getting to bring these things to them, and they listen to what we have to say and what we think.
Do you ever make suggestions?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, there are times when we'll go through a draft and we'll flag a bunch of things, and we, pick what we think the writers need us to tell them and what we think they're going to, figure out on their own, or that they've already got something planned in their heads for their next draft before we even find out about it.
No, you guys start shooting in July, right?
Yeah, generally.
yeah.
So does that mean your job starts before then?
Definitely.
Yeah, because we try to get as many scripts in the bank as possible before we start shooting so that we can get a little bit ahead of the game, especially since for the last 2 seasons we haven't started airing until January. So we have a little bit of legroom in that sense also, that a lot of other shows, most shows start in September. So
I mean, production definitely does start to catch up with what the writers are doing.
yeah, we start shooting on the same schedule, but air dates are a little bit later, so they try to get as much ahead of the game as possible.
Is it hard to keep track of? Because I remember talking to John Cassar last season, where it's the shooting schedule is funny. Like they're prepping for like the even show while they're shooting the odd show or something like.
We run in 2 episode at a time
Okay.
production schedules, so we'll prep episodes 1 and 2, and then start shooting episodes 1 and 2. And while we're shooting 1 and 2, we're prepping 3 and 4. So we have usually rotating directors. We have 1 director per 2 episodes. And that way, 1 director's prepping, 1 director's shooting all the time. And then towards the end of the season, we start getting into second units and double units and weekends and all that kind of stuff to catch up with the air date schedule, which is rapidly approaching.
Is there anything, just as a fan of the show, that happened this season that you were like, oh, not Edgar, or
Oh, sure.
I think Tony was a big one.
Tony
I think
was-
we're both big fans of
Yeah.
Tony. He was
Yeah,
a great
that was a
character for a
heartbreaker.
very long time. He was one of the last remaining original characters, so from first season, from the pilot even. So
Yeah.
Yeah,
aside from Jack.
definitely. I mean, they'll do something and we'll read it and go like, "Oh, really?" And we'll go, "Do we really have to do this? Really? Okay."
But then with Michelle gone, he didn't want to live.
No.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's the way it seemed. But that was a great scene. You guys, thanks for talking to us. It was fun to learn about this.
Awesome, thank you.
Okay, we are on the actual set of CTU. Oh my God, I'm so excited. And with me are two of the guys that helped create 24 day in and day out. It's two writers, Matt Miskovitz. Miknovitz. I knew I was going to mess that up. All right, and Duffy Demetrius.
Right.
Right. Okay, I'm 1 for 2. Now, you guys have been with the show since season 1, right?
That's correct.
Correct.
So how has it changed for you to work on it? I'll start with you, Duffy.
Well, I was originally, we both actually were assistants season 1 for the executive producers. Season 2, I actually got to write a script. Season 3, I became a staff writer. So just seeing how things look from that end all the way up through actually being able to be in the writer's room and deal with continuity and deal with all that stuff it was just a complete different world.
So how exciting was that when they said, okay, you're actually going to start writing 24? You're like, oh my God, there's a whole universe there.
Absolutely. It went crazy, you know. It was one of those weekends you go to Vegas and celebrate, and then Monday morning you crack down.
Is that right? So what's something you've written?
Well, I started on season 4, where I was a staff writer, and season 5, Duffy and I are the story editors.
Okay.
And we've had a couple of storylines that everything from, you know, doing arcs, which played out over a couple of episodes through a season, to our own episodes, which we've written together, and we've written a couple separately as well.
Is that a lot of responsibility? I mean, because, you know, there's so much that rides on it, characters that are so beloved. Are you guys responsible for killing off anybody?
Yeah, we're actually responsible for killing off Edgar. That was us. That was us.
You gotta
guilty.
watch
No,
the
it was
death
great.
threats. We don't
It was
wanna-
great.
Oh, yeah. Wait, just because you thought, oh, that'd be good to get rid of him?
Well,
or to bring in
originally we
somebody
thought
new?
about, actually, we had like 3 or 4 people that were going to die in the gas attack in CTU.
Wow.
And it just was too much, and the producers were like, no, we can't kill off that many. It was so we went with Edgar, who was, you know, the beloved Edgar character. And it's been, you know, everybody loved him so much, and now we're getting a lot of complaints. You guys are responsible for that.
Do you ever have the actors kind of be like, hi, remember me, don't kill me off, love working on the show?
We try to avoid them. We're a little scared that, you know, they're going to come after us and see us in the parking lot one day after work. And
Yeah, and I think this thing is, this type of show, that's just part of the show.
Yeah.
Nobody really is safe, which is good.
One of the
Keeps
things
everyone on
that's
their
important.
toes.
With Edgar, like Debbie said, he keeps them on their toes. One of the things, especially with Edgar, he's a beloved character, but I think that when you have a character like that, they're better served if they go out in a proper way, and I think we sent him off in a proper way that
He was trying to save somebody.
right. And well, he was stuck in a situation that, you know, it reminds you of what the stakes are on the show, and for every person that we lose, we also bring in a new character, so it makes room for these characters to come in and sort of fall in love with a new character on the show.
Now, you also wrote the game.
I did. The 24 video game for
Was that based
for
on a certain
PlayStation.
season? Or?
No, what it was we started it at the end of season 3, and we didn't know who was going to be around for season 4, so we couldn't just come up with all the characters. So we decided to place it between seasons 2 and 3. So we knew who we had to deal with, and there were also some backstories that needed some fleshing out. So in the game, we describe how Chase comes to CTU, and how Kim meets Chase, and how Jack starts working with him, and how Chloe gets to CTU, and what happens to Palmer and the person that was responsible for, you know, the handshake and all that stuff. So we filled in a lot of the blanks, which weren't originally there.
Oh,
So
that
it was
sounds
good.
cool.
It was fun.
All right, very cool. Now, you had to do some funny stuff, some challenging stuff last season with when the terrorists took the department, the Secretary of Defense hostage.
That's correct. Yes, we we're responsible in addition to writing some of the episodes and all our other duties, continuity and tracking characters and that type of thing. We also do a lot of the things that people don't really notice up front on camera. And since the show is in real time, it poses a lot of challenges. Last season, we had a scene where the Secretary of Defense was captured by terrorists, and they were basically going to execute him on the internet in a type of show trial. And while that was going on, the terrorist was reading a list of charges against him. And this was something that, when it was shot, was very short, but then edited in with scenes of, you know, Jack, intercut with Jack, trying to rescue him, various people in places watching this unfold on the internet. It stretched out to around almost 10 minutes. So I had to actually write 10 minutes worth of dialogue, and in this case, a monologue of charges against him that this actor would read, that they would intercut where they needed it.
In order to do that, what did you go on, like, you know, Terrorist RS website or something? I mean, how do you get the material to write something like that?
That's all research. I mean,
To
he
an
did
extent.
that. I did season 3. I had to do the big backdrop for Palmer story was a presidential debate with Keeler. And I had to actually write a real debate where they actually shot the entire thing.
Welcome to
actually doing the debate themselves, and I think
Right,
it was all telepromptered.
That's a
and
big term paper.
It was huge. It was a big thing. It had to be about a half hour long, and it was something that was just kept going on in the background and going on in the background for episode after episode after episode.
So you do that. What would Palmer's position be
Yeah,
on
I mean,
this?
what you do is you study a lot of. I mean, for Matt, I'm sure he had to go and actually see what these type of trial
Right.
things are
Yeah.
and what goes on in that, which is different than what I had to do. I had to study.
Current political
Current political things and see what the debate forms were, and looked at different presidential debates and vice presidential debates and things like that to actually put them together. So it's very dry.
Now, when you talk about continuity, how does that differ from, say, the script coordinators, what you're doing in terms of the continuity of the script?
Well, we oversee a lot of what they do, and we also work sort of as mechanics, where we're fixing little bits and pieces in the script, kind of some holes here and there. We work with the director and oversee the script coordinators in the director's read-through, where he'll go through and make specific notes and changes that he needs made. That you sort of see the difference between the script and what's going to be shot.
Oh, you know what I'm wondering is, what is the writing process like? Because you guys work as a team. I mean, it is. And sometimes when I'm watching the show, I'm like, my God, how did they come up with that? So are you like, you sit on a couch eating Oreos and like, I don't know what, or do you just kind of, let's brainstorm and throw things on the wall, or how does it go?
Well, a lot of it, in the beginning of each year, we go into the conference room. We have big white dry erase boards, and they throw out, the executive producers, Joel and Howard and Bob and Evan, they throw out ideas of they have a pretty good idea of what they want the main threat to be, whether it's a virus attack or a nuclear bomb or whatever it is. And then from there, we try and come up with good characters and the characters that we have and see how we can utilize them in those stories. But after really the first 5 or 6, we don't know where the story's going all that much. We have
Any
a
more
general,
than a viewer does.
Well, we're farther ahead of that.
Right.
obviously,
But I mean, you kind of set things in motion, and then you just have to see how.
And then we
it's
see
gonna
how it
play
is
out.
and what plays out, and if this works and if that doesn't
Wow.
work, and we see further down the line. So we're at any given point, we're probably only 4 or 5 scripts ahead. So it's not like we plan out the whole season, because we don't plan out the whole season. That would be.
But you must
almost
plan
impossible.
the different layers, because you know that, like, okay, at some point, like, they're going to get the nerve gas, but there's going to have to be some other underlying thing that's going to have to carry through another 6 or 8 episodes.
Right. There's some interesting things that happen. We have a lot of ideas that we'll toss around and say, this would be good. Further down the line, either episode 12, somewhere in the middle, or closer to the end, near episode 24. And inevitably, it always ends up being moved up closer to the front. So like Duppy said, we end up with, we may end up with a block of the first 6 or 7 episodes, but when it's done, it really turns out to be like the first 4. When you get those ideas
Then
up.
you're like, I've got to come
Yeah,
up
the
with
real
more
time
stuff.
the real time aspect actually, it's great, but it hinders a little bit. So you have to come up with more.
It's very
Yeah.
challenging.
And keep it interesting.
That compressed time would actually be easier to work on than what you guys
Yes.
have to work on. So has there ever been a time at some point in the story, maybe this season, last season, where you sat and gone, I have no idea what should happen next?
Yeah, and then we end up having to rewrite 2 scripts ago to actually figure out what's
Oh,
going to be able to
really?
happen. Yeah,
Doing
there's
retrofit.
There's some of that.
Was there
going on.
something, was there a cul-de-sac that you found that you could tell us now?
What we're
Well, there was something last season where when we started, we had the kidnapping of the Secretary of Defense, and we decided that it'd be an interesting idea if the next thing that came after that would be some kind of a threat that we could set up early on, and where we came up with the idea for the briefcase, which we went back and layered into the first episode, which is the briefcase on the train, that they didn't actually open and find out what was inside of it until episode 6, when we realized that it was this device that was being used to melt down nuclear power plants, and that it set in motion the next 5 or 6 episodes.
Okay, now how do you even think about something like, there's a briefcase that can, you just make that up, or do you know that there is such a briefcase type of a thing?
That was made up, I think.
Yeah.
All right, so a lot of it made
A
up.
lot of it's made up, and yeah, I mean, a lot of things that if we did have a threat, we have to make sure that what we're putting out there is realistic, but isn't necessarily something that can be easily handled, because we don't want to give anybody any ideas.
Okay, well, it looks like the threat of CTU is coming back to form, so I'm going to thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to see what happens next. All right, you know him as Bill Buchanan, but he in actuality is James Morrison. So, James, thanks for joining us.
No, thank you.
Now, you are one of those interesting characters that comes on 24 and you think, oh, man, who's this tool? He's going to mess everything up. And then we start to grow and love you.
And you go, and you go, I sort of like that tool.
Exactly.
That's me.
Well, when you came on the show, did you know that your character would last this long?
I know nothing.
No.
No. I knew that I was boarding a speeding train
Is that
from standing on the platform. It was kind of interesting when I came in.
Yeah.
There was lots going on, and I was just, flying blind.
Did you know when you came on that that you and Michelle were going to have had a romance previous?
No.
Because that was the first thing as a viewer that I kind of went, maybe there's more to Mr. Buchanan if he's hanging out with Michelle.
I think that's why they did that, because there was no introduction to a character. He just appeared out of nowhere. There was no,
Yeah.
guess who's coming over?
Yeah.
Bad guy from Division or whatever. There was nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they had to build a little backstory.
And so when they said, hey, we need you for season 4 too, we were like, yes.
Oh, yeah. Sure, yeah. It's a great gig.
Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Now, speaking of backstory, Jane Atkinson said that she's been playing it with thinking that maybe there's a little romantic tension between Mr. Buchanan and Miss
Yeah,
Hayes.
I've known Jane for a few years, and she's, I love her.
Oh, well, mischievous smile there.
Well, the high-stakes, high-tension world of CTU is acts something of an aphrodisiac.
You think so?
Sure.
Does Bill Buchanan always trust Jack Bauer?
I think I trust his judgment always, yeah. Mm-hmm. Not his methodology, but certainly his judgment.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think? Do you think Buchanan's going to be walking in for season 6?
Well, let's see. I seldom pray for specific things, but yeah, that's one of the things I'm praying for.
No, is that the part of you that's a fan of the show, or the part of you that's an actor?
Both.
No.
I'm a fan of the show because of the way they treat actors, actually.
Yeah. People say that. It's a good
It's
place.
really, really collaborative and the most creative environment I've ever been in.
All right, James.
Yes.
Buchanan.
Yeah,
How would I call you?
I feel like I've known you for years.
I feel like I've been
Yeah.
watching you for at least a season or 2.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thanks for watching 24 Inside. I'm Daphne Brogdon.